Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the grayscale trusts, and I am going to let you guys know why we have decided all of a sudden that we're bearish on LTCN. Let's get it. So the first thing that I want to pull up here is that the chart of LTCN, which we're going to go a little deeper into than just the weekly on here. The chart of LTCN is still in an overall bullish trend. However, something that I want to point out to you guys is that after we had this massive dump with this tweezer top, I was pretty confident that the move was going to push all the way back up into this resistance. However, that did not happen. We barely even got into the zone and got rejected. You can see this massive candle wick here with a red candle close down. That is very bearish in my opinion. If this thing was truly bullish, we should have seen it basically continue to go up and even push back through this resistance, but that did not happen. So kind of expecting this thing to go lower from this point. Another indicator that gave me the idea that that's going to happen is that you guys can see on the histogram here on the MACD that the color changed from a solid green to a lighter green, and the bars are getting smaller, which is kind of moving towards the break-even level. This is indicative of a potential swing in momentum, so a shift in momentum to the downside or the bearish side. So if this thing continues to go down, which I think it will, it'll probably hit break even and then start to turn red. And then that's when the bearish divergence will take place. The MACD will probably have a death cross and this thing will go lower from that point. So if I jump down to a daily time frame, we can take a little bit closer look at this. As you guys can see here, something very similar is happening on the MACD as well. You can see the histogram moving down. It went from a solid green basically just down to not so green. It's pretty much just a kind of a lighter shade of green, indicating a potential reversal here. You can see the RSI is about to have another death cross. MACD is about to have another death cross. And we're slowly pushing back down into the EMAs. You can see we're kind of going sideways here. It hasn't really been super bullish. Was kind of expecting a bigger move, but that didn't happen. So if we go down to an even smaller time frame, this is usually the time frame that we start our swing trades on, is the 4-hour chart. We don't use the daily or the weekly for actual swing trades. But you guys can see that we had a red candle close today, as a matter of fact, below all these EMAs. That is the potential start of a bearish signal here. Again, if this was truly bullish, it would have gone much further up than it did after this triple golden cross, but we didn't see it was a pretty good size move, but it wasn't like massive. We're expecting like a really big pop, and that didn't happen. So kind of thinking that move was a fake out. You can see here on the MACD, the EMAs on the MACD have already crossed bearish, and we've already hit that red part of the histogram. So as of right now, kind of not looking as bullish as it did. Could it go back up? Yeah, sure. But I think the probability is more likely that this thing is going to sell off probably somewhere between, I would say we'll probably bottom out between $7 to $9. Again, ever since we blasted off from the zone, we have not come back down to that area. So I'm kind of expecting that we will. So now going into HZEN, HZEN again, it's starting to look kind of bearish. We had this massive, basically bearish doji here. And as you guys can see, after multiple weekly attempts, we still have not cracked the top of the support zone. Even on this candle, we basically just got shot back down. So not looking super bullish on this, but it's potentially a good buying opportunity. I think that it's hard to say where it'll bottom at this point, but I think most likely we'll probably come back down and test these red EMAs. So I would say a starting point for buying could potentially be between roughly about 130 to 160 a share. BCHG, we had a red engulfing candle here. That's obviously not good on the weekly. Again, very similar story to LTCN. Histogram is moving down in momentum. We are still above the EMAs though, so that's good. At least for now anyways, but as you guys can see, we had a candle close below the EMAs on the daily. Obviously, that's not good. And also the MACD here, we had a death cross all the way back here, but as you guys can see, we did not flip it bullish. It looked like it was going to come back up here, and now it's starting to look bearish again, so something to keep in mind there. I would say if this thing is going to bottom, it's probably going to bottom somewhere between $2.34 a share to maybe, I would say somewhere around maybe $2.75, $2.80, $3 a share, somewhere in there. GXLM, we have actually had a bearish close below this rising wedge pattern, which, as you guys know, those of you that trade, you know this is a bearish pattern. It favors the bears, whereas the opposite favors the bulls. That would be a falling wedge. So we had a confirmation close below, still sitting above the red EMA though. And as you guys can see, histogram is turning red. So where could this thing potentially bottom out? I would say, based on price patterns, the bottom could potentially be as low as, I would say, about $14 a share. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but that's generally how rising wedges work. They start at basically the start of the pattern, and then they end up back at the start of the pattern. That's generally how it works. But if not, then potentially it could bottom out as low as 20 to maybe somewhere around $23 a share. ETH is still looking very bullish, although there is a potential death cross coming here on the weekly, so obviously that's not good. We still have the bearish divergence playing out here, but the price is actually starting to move down now. If we drop down to the daily time frame, it looks pretty similar, but again, it's looking kind of weak on ETH. It's not looking super strong at this point. I would need to see this right here turn into a higher low, meaning this is going to go up, then pull. Basically, this would be a pullback right here, and then we shoot higher. But we'll just have to wait and see on that one, see if that plays out on the daily. But overall, again, I would say the major support is going to be somewhere between this $14 range to potentially, I would say, roughly about 17. ETH Classic, again, MACD is starting to kind of fade the histogram, so to speak, and there's a potential for a death cross here. Obviously, the shooting star candle here is very bearish. That is an extremely bearish candle pattern right there. Basically, the opposite of this would be a hammer candle, which is something like this one right here with the long wick to the downside and the body close to the upside. We got the opposite here. So another big rejection off resistance. I would say a potential starting point for a buy would be anywhere between $9 to probably maybe about $10.50 a share or so. Zcash, this one is looking very bearish. Not going to lie to you guys. So you see all these massive wicks we got here: rejection, 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 another rejection, even this week. Plus a death cross here on the weekly. That's not good. So, I mean, it's good if you're a bear, but if you're a bull, then obviously that's not good. So, support sits between 150 to 177, and again, resistance is between 270 to $4. But it's not really looking like we're going to get up there. So, there could be potentially a lot of buying opportunities, I would say, over the next couple of months in the grayscale trust. So we'll have to keep a lookout on that. GSOL, this thing is just unstoppable, but again, I would not touch this thing with a 10-foot pole. That's just my opinion. If you guys want to buy it, enter at your own risk. But do understand that if you get dumped on from this level, even back just down to this, let's say the blue EMA, it's a 36% drop. The green support box, 51%, and the red EMA, you're talking almost 60%. It could potentially even go lower than that. This would be the next zone after this one. This would be the next zone that would turn into support. So all the way up down at $40. It could go higher, sure, but I just wouldn't be buying at these levels. So I would say support is somewhere between $70 to $90 is probably the most expensive that I'd be willing to buy this at. Mana, massive rejection here, as you guys can see. We did actually have one subscriber that said he took a 3x profit on Mana. Congratulations, man. Good job. because it looks like you got out at the right time, because yeah, this thing just absolutely capitulated. As you guys can see here, we had a nearly 60% drop, so this thing is much cheaper than it was, although I still think it could potentially dump more. I say that because we got this death cross coming up. So potentially it could be a good buying opportunity right now, if I'm being completely honest. So somewhere between 950 a share to about 1170 a share. We're pretty much right in between that zone. But if you're really patient and you want to wait and see if this thing is just going to get dirt cheap at this point, you could buy down here between 150 a share to roughly about 340 a share, and resistance is between 720 to 26 bucks or so a share. GBAT, another massive drop. As you guys can see, we had a red engulfing last week. Kind of sort of looking like a shooting star candle, but this one closed obviously bullish, quote bullish. This is not obviously very bullish because it wasn't a huge close here. It just kind of like a little tiny close. But in my opinion, I still wouldn't be buying this even at these levels. I would probably wait for it to hit somewhere between 350 to about 440 a share. The macro support between 67 cents to about $1.15. I don't think it's going to go that low, but we'll just have to wait and see. Histogram's kind of falling off here again. And basically your macro support's going to be, or resistance, sorry, is going to be between roughly about $8 to as high as $9.60 per share. G-Link looking pretty bearish, not going to lie. You got these massive red wicks here. That's very bearish. That indicates either profit taking or sellers just coming in and just tanking this thing. You guys got to understand from a short perspective, and I can tell you right now, I do short the market sometimes. In futures, sometimes I'll short. It depends on where the momentum is, but if it looks really bearish, I'll jump in there at the right time and pile on my shorts. That's the way it works, guys. When shorts pile on, they pile on hard and they just absolutely dump on the heads of everybody. That's the way it works. Shorts, I would say, tend to be a little bit more aggressive with their selling than longs are with their buying. That's just my opinion, but I've been trading for a long time, and we've really come to understand the psychology of how traders work. So it's looking pretty bearish, not going to lie. We're about to get that death cross, and I would personally not buy until it gets down to at least 29 bucks. That's just my opinion. Macro support is between roughly about 670 to 970 a share. Resistance could be ranging anywhere from $40 up to about $87. But again, I would be willing to buy even more LTCN over this, even with LTCN being at 11 bucks a share. So yeah, this is just one I would not touch. Okay, so Phil G, massive rejection candle here, huge, massive shooting star candle. That is a major red flag. Again, we had a bearish candle here, although it's not quite as obvious that it's bearish. Support is between $5 and $12 on the macro scale. And then the immediate short-term support would, in my opinion, be somewhere between 30.60 all the way up to 54.40. It's a big range, but again, there is kind of some support with this gap here by where the red EMA is, but also the previous resistance here by the zones. So it's kind of a widespread. Enter at your own risk. I personally am not going to be buying any of this. So GLIV, very illiquid. As you guys can see, these flat bars indicates low liquidity. But if you wanted to buy it, macro support is between $2 and roughly about $4. And the immediate support would be somewhere between $9.70 to about $15. Resistance would be, I would say, as high as $24 to $29. It's looking pretty bearish, I would say. That's a pretty big drop from this wick up here to this EMA as of current. But again, because this thing has such low liquidity, I would personally not be buying this. But to each their own. I am not even aware of what Live Peer is. I've never owned it, nor have I owned the underlines. So Yeah. Anyways, looking pretty bearish in the immediate short term. We might be seeing some pretty juicy discount buys, buying opportunities in, I would say, the next 1 to 3 months going into the halving. So yeah, let us know what your thoughts are down below. Hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.